Once upon a time, in a faraway galaxy, there lived an alien woman named Zira. She came from a planet called Ryloth, where the sky was a bright shade of violet and the trees sparkled like diamonds. Zira had green skin, large purple eyes, and elongated ears that shimmered in the light. But despite her unique beauty, Zira believed she was ugly. Growing up, Zira often heard her friends whisper when she walked by. "Look at her strange ears," they would say. "Her skin is too green." Zira's heart would sink every time. She didn't understand why others saw her appearance as odd. Deep down, she longed for acceptance and warmth from those around her. Zira lived in a small cottage near the edge of a sparkling river. She would often sit by the riverbank, staring at her reflection in the water. Whenever she saw her face, she frowned. To her, it looked strange, not beautiful like the other beings she admired. Her once bright smile had faded, and she buried herself in her work, focusing on creating beautiful art pieces instead. One day, Zira decided to attend the annual festival on Ryloth. The festival was a vibrant gathering, filled with colorful decorations, music, and laughter. Creatures from all around the galaxy came to celebrate. But as Zira approached the bustling crowd, her heart raced with fear. What if they laugh at me? She thought. She hesitated at the entrance, feeling small and out of place. Just then, a human named Jake, who was visiting Ryloth, noticed her. Jake was an adventurous young man, fascinated by the galaxy's wonders. He saw Zira standing alone and felt drawn to her uniqueness. Jake walked up to her and smiled warmly. "Hi there. I'm Jake. You look beautiful," he said, his blue eyes sparkling in the sunlight. Zira froze. Did he just call her beautiful? Her heart raced, and her cheeks turned a shade of green deeper than usual. She couldn't comprehend what he meant. "Me?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, you," Jake insisted. "Your skin is so vibrant, and your eyes are like the stars. I've never seen anyone like you before." Zira felt a wave of confusion. She wanted to laugh at his words, but something inside her stirred. No one had ever called her beautiful. She looked down, feeling shy. "But I have strange ears," she said softly. "Strange? No way. They make you unique." "Everyone has something special about them," Jake replied. His kindness warmed her spirit. Zira found it hard to believe, yet she felt a flicker of hope. "You really think so?" she asked, looking into his eyes for the truth. "Yes, trust me. I've traveled to many worlds, and I've never met anyone quite like you. Your beauty is different, and that's what I admire," Jake said earnestly. Zira's heart raced with joy and disbelief. She had never felt such compliments before. For the first time, she felt the weight of her insecurities lifting. Could it be true? Was she really beautiful? She couldn't find the words to express how she felt. With newfound courage, Zira took a deep breath and smiled. "Thank you, Jake. No one has ever said that to me." Her voice was soft, but it held warmth. "I never believed I could be beautiful." Jake grinned back, his heart swelling with happiness. "That's because you haven't seen yourself through the eyes of someone who appreciates differences. Everyone has their own beauty," he encouraged her. The festival continued around them with laughter and music, but Zira felt in a world of her own. They started to converse, and as they shared stories of their homes, Zira found herself laughing more. Jake was funny and kind, and they formed a bond that felt as natural as breathing. As the sun began to set, casting a magical glow over the festival, Zira took Jake's hand and led him to the bank of the river. The water reflected the brilliant colors of the sky, creating a breathtaking sight. "This is my favorite place," she said. "It helps me forget the things that make me feel ugly." Jake watched her gaze at the water, mesmerized. You should never have to feel that way, he said. You are stunning, just like this river. Zira turned to look at him, her heart full of warmth. You really think I'm stunning? She asked again, wanting to hear it one more time. Absolutely, Jake replied without hesitation, and I hope you see it too. In that moment, Zira realized that beauty comes not just from looks, but from kindness, laughter, and the way one treats others. She felt a change within herself. The feelings of doubt and ugliness began to fade as she saw the joy in Jake's eyes. Suddenly, the sky lit up with fireworks, marking the end of the festival. The colors danced above, them filling the night with sparkling lights. Zira turned to Jake, her spirit soaring. Thank you for saying those words, Jake. I will remember them forever, she said, her voice steady and joyful. The evening ended with smiles, laughter, and a promise to meet again. As Zira walked home, she looked up at the stars, and for the first time, she felt beautiful. She had learned that beauty was about being unique, and it was okay to be herself. From that day on, Zira embraced her features and celebrated her differences. She continued to create her art, putting her heart into every piece. With Jake's encouragement, she began to shine brighter than ever, a true reflection of her vibrant spirit. And whenever she looked in the mirror, she smiled back at her beautiful self, knowing that self-acceptance was the most beautiful thing of all. Zira adjusted her multifaceted eyes, staring at her reflection in the polished metal. Disappointment, a familiar companion, settled in her chest. Her skin, a mosaic of blues and greens, seemed dull today. The ridges on her forehead, which the elders of Xylos considered marks of wisdom, looked too pronounced, too harsh. Ugly, she whispered, the word a soft hiss in the sterile environment of the Xylosian scout ship. Zira had always felt like an anomaly on Xylos. Her people, the Xylosians, valued symmetry and uniformity. Zira, with her asymmetrical patterns and unpredictable color shifts based on her emotions, was anything but uniform. Even her antennae, usually held high with pride, drooped with self-doubt. The mission to Earth had been a chance to escape the stifling expectations of Xylos. Assigned as a xenobiologist, Zira was tasked with observing human culture and biology. She hoped that immersing herself in a new world would somehow help her find acceptance, if not beauty, within herself. She materialized a standard-issue Xylosian environmental suit around herself. The suit masked her true form, projecting a generic humanoid silhouette. This was necessary, of course. A 6-foot-tall alien with blue-green skin strolling down a human street would cause more than a little stir. Her first few weeks on Earth were a whirlwind of data collection. She observed human interactions, their art, their technology, and their strange, illogical customs. She saw them express love, joy, anger, and sadness, often in ways that seemed contradictory to their words. She visited museums filled with human art, studying sculptures and paintings that celebrated the human form in all its variations. Yet, even in their art, she sensed an underlying obsession with perfection, a pursuit of an ideal that seemed as unattainable as it was on Xylos. One day, while observing a bustling marketplace in a small town called Harmony Creek, Zira noticed a flower stall overflowing with vibrant colors and intoxicating scents. Drawn by an irresistible urge, she approached the stall. An elderly woman with a kind face and twinkling eyes stood behind the counter, arranging bouquets with practiced ease. "Can I help you, dear?" she asked, her voice warm and welcoming. Zira, still in her environmental suit, hesitated. She had no need for flowers, but she longed for connection, for a moment of genuine interaction. I am just admiring your display," she said, her voice synthesized by the suit. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" The woman chuckled, her gaze sweeping over the colorful array. Each one unique, each one perfect in its own way. She picked up a wilting rose, its petals bruised and brown. "Even this one," she said, has its own charm. It's lived its life, and now it's showing its age. But that doesn't make it any less beautiful. Zira found herself strangely moved by the woman's words. She had never considered beauty in such a way, as something that transcended perfection. As the days turned into weeks, Zira found herself drawn back to the flower stall. She learned the woman's name was Martha, and she was a widow who had run the stall for over 40 years. They talked about everything and nothing, from the weather to the meaning of life. Martha never pried, never asked questions about Zira's past or her origins. She simply accepted her as she was, a quiet observer with a thirst for knowledge. One afternoon, as Zira was helping Martha arrange a new shipment of flowers, the environmental suit malfunctioned. A surge of energy pulsed through the suit, causing it to flicker and fade, revealing Zira's true form. A gasp escaped Martha's lips, her eyes widening in surprise. Zira froze, fear constricting her chest. She had broken protocol, exposed herself to a human. She expected screams, fear, maybe even violence, but none of that came. Martha simply stared, her eyes filled with wonder. "My goodness," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. You're beautiful." The word hit Zira like a physical blow. Beautiful? No one had ever called her beautiful before. On Xylos, she was considered an aberration, an anomaly. I don't understand," Zira stammered, her voice raw and unfiltered. Martha reached out a trembling hand and gently touched Zira's blue-green skin. "Your colors," she said, her voice filled with awe. "They're like a sunset over the ocean. And your eyes, they're like 1,000 stars." Zira's multifaceted eyes widened. She had never seen herself as beautiful. She had always focused on her flaws, her imperfections. But Martha saw something else, something she herself had been blind to. "But I am not symmetrical," Zira protested, her voice barely a whisper. "My skin is uneven, my features are." Martha shook her head. "Symmetry is boring," she said with a wink. "It's the imperfections that make things interesting, that give them character. You are unique, Zira, and that's what makes you beautiful." Tears welled up in Zira's eyes, tears of disbelief, of joy, of acceptance. She had come to Earth seeking knowledge, seeking a way to escape her own self-doubt, and she had found it in the most unexpected of places, in the words of an elderly flower seller who saw beauty where others saw only flaws. From that day on, Zira began to shed her self-doubt. She still wore the environmental suit when necessary, but she no longer felt the need to hide her true self. She continued to visit Martha, learning from her wisdom and her unwavering belief in the beauty of imperfection. She even started sending reports back to Xylos, detailing her experiences on Earth and her newfound understanding of beauty. Her reports were initially met with skepticism, but as time went on, some of the younger Xylosians began to question their own rigid standards of beauty. Zira knew that changing an entire culture was a slow and arduous process, but she had planted a seed of acceptance and understanding, and she hoped that one day the Xylosians would learn to see beauty in all its forms, just as Martha had taught her. Zira continued her research, learning more about humans and their complex emotions. She found that beauty wasn't just about physical appearance, it was about kindness, compassion, and the ability to see the good in others. She learned that true beauty came from within, from the light that shone through the cracks of imperfection. And, as she looked at her reflection, she no longer saw an ugly alien woman. She saw a unique individual, a being of light and color, a creature of Xylos and Earth, who had finally learned to embrace her own extraordinary beauty. In a small town called Maplewood, life was simple. The streets were lined with trees, and children played in the parks. But one sunny day, something extraordinary happened. An alien named Zara landed her spaceship in the woods just outside town. Zara was from a planet called Xylon. On Xylon, everyone had green skin and large, bright eyes. However, Zara was different. Her skin was a deep shade of blue, and her eyes sparkled like stars. She often felt she did not fit in. Despite her unique features, Zara thought she was ugly, especially compared to the other Xylonians. So she decided to explore Earth in her spaceship, hoping to find a place where she would feel beautiful and accepted. As Zara stepped out of her spaceship, she noticed the beauty of Maplewood. The sun shone brightly, and the flowers bloomed with colors she had never seen. Zara took a deep breath and walked toward town. She felt nervous but excited. When Zara entered Maplewood, people stared at her. Some were scared, while others were curious. A little girl named Lily, who was playing with her friends, approached Zara. Lily was not frightened. Instead, she smiled and waved. "Hi! Are you a superhero from outer space?" Lily asked with wide eyes. Zara laughed softly. "No, I am Zara, from the planet Xylon." Lily beamed. "That's amazing! Can you fly in the sky?" Zara nodded. "Yes, I can fly very high." The other children hearing this ran over to see the alien. They wondered about her abilities, asking questions, and admiring her. But there was one thing Zara couldn't shake off. She thought they were only being nice because she was different. After chatting with the children, Zara felt a little better, but not enough. As Zara roamed through Maplewood, she found a small cafe called the Cozy Corner. The smell of freshly baked cookies wafted through the air, making her stomach rumble. She decided to go inside. The cafe was filled with people chatting and laughing. Zara hesitated at the door, unsure if she should go in. Just then, a friendly voice called out to her. "Please join us." A man named Tom waved from a table. He had kind eyes and a warm smile. Zara hesitated but slowly walked over to him. "Thank you," she said softly. Tom introduced her to his friends, Alice and Mark. They welcomed Zara warmly, asking her about her home and what brought her to Earth. As they talked, Zara felt more at ease. But she couldn't shake her worries about being seen as ugly. "You know," Tom said, looking at her with admiration, "you are really beautiful." Zara froze. No one had ever called her beautiful before. She was so stunned that words wouldn't come out. Her heart raced. Did he really think so? Was it true? She could feel her blue skin tingling with uncertainty. Those simple words took her by surprise and made her question everything she believed about herself. "Are you okay?" Alice asked, noticing Zara's silence. Zara finally found her voice. I don't think I am beautiful. I don't look like you." She felt embarrassed saying it, but she needed them to understand. Mark smiled gently. "Beauty isn't just about how you look. It's about who you are inside. You're kind and brave for exploring our world. That makes you beautiful." Zara felt a warmth spread through her. The words were comforting, but she still had doubts. Did they truly believe what they were saying? Somehow, the compliments made her feel more vulnerable. Afraid to accept it, she turned away and changed the topic. As more days passed, Zara spent time with Tom, Alice, and Mark. They showed her about Earth, taking her on nature hikes, visiting the library, and celebrating a local festival. At every turn, they treated her with kindness, and the laughter they shared began to heal Zara's heart. One day, as they walked through the woods, Zara suddenly stopped. She saw her reflection in a small pond. The sunlight danced on the water, creating ripples. Staring at her image, she tried to see what Tom, Alice, and Mark saw. Was she really beautiful, like they said? "Zara, come look," Lily called. Zara turned, and for the first time, she noticed the joy in Lily's eyes as she played with her friends, unbothered by appearances. Zara realized it was the joy, kindness, and laughter that made people truly beautiful. Gathering her courage, Zara spoke. "Thank you for being my friends. I've never felt this happy before." All her friends smiled, encouraging her to embrace herself. They taught her that true beauty radiates from within, from kindness and friendship. Slowly, the belief began to settle in Zara's heart. Maybe she could see herself in a different light. One sunny afternoon, at a community gathering, Zara took a deep breath and greeted everyone. "Hello, everyone. I'm Zara, and I come from Xylon. Thank you for welcoming me." The crowd cheered, excited to have her there. In that moment, Zara felt proud of who she was. Confidence washed over her as she realized there was no need to hide. There were many kinds of beauty, and she was one of them. As the sun began to set, Zara turned to her friends. "Thank you for showing me I am beautiful, just as I am." Her eyes sparkled, and this time they were filled with joy. From that day forward, Zara blossomed in Maplewood. She learned to embrace her uniqueness and see the beauty in herself, just as her friends saw it. The alien woman who once thought she was ugly now stood tall, knowing she was beautiful inside and out. And in that little town, Zara learned that friendship made her strong, and beauty came in many wonderful forms. Xylo landed her spacecraft just outside the small town of Harmony Creek. The ship, sleek and silver, was hidden amongst the thick trees that surrounded the area. She had picked this place after months of observation. Harmony Creek was unremarkable, its people simple and kind, perfect for her mission. Xylo was an alien from the planet Glaran, a world where beauty was defined by symmetry and vibrant colors. She, however, possessed none of these qualities. Her skin was a dull gray, her eyes uneven, and her antennae drooped instead of standing tall and proud. On Glaran she was considered, well, ugly. Her mission was simple: to observe humans, learn their customs, and report back. But secretly, Xylo hoped to understand something more. She wanted to know if beauty was truly universal, or if perhaps, in some corner of the universe, she could be seen as something other than repulsive. She transformed her appearance using a device from her ship. It wasn't perfect, but it would do. She made herself look like a human woman, with brown hair, green eyes, and pale skin. She chose the name Lena for herself. As Lena, she walked into Harmony Creek. The town square was bustling with activity. Children laughed as they chased pigeons, farmers sold their produce, and townsfolk chatted and gossiped. Lena felt a pang of loneliness. She watched them, trying to understand their interactions, their smiles, their easy laughter. She rented a small room at the local inn. The innkeeper, a plump woman named Martha, greeted her with a warm smile. "Welcome to Harmony Creek, dear. Staying long?" "Just a few weeks," Lena replied, trying to mimic the local accent. "I'm here to study the local flora." Martha chuckled. "Flora, eh? Well, you've come to the right place. We've got more wildflowers than you can shake a stick at." Lena spent her days observing the townspeople. She visited the local library, reading books about human history and culture. She volunteered at the community garden, learning about plants and making small talk with the other volunteers. One day, while at the garden, she met a man named Ethan. He was tall, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He was a carpenter and often volunteered his time to build things for the town. "You're new here, aren't you?" Ethan asked, handing her a trowel. "Yes, I'm Lena," she replied, her heart skipping a beat. "I'm here studying the local plants." "That's interesting," Ethan said. "I've always been more of a wood and nails kind of guy myself." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, pulling weeds and planting seeds. Lena found herself drawn to Ethan's quiet strength and his easygoing nature. As the days turned into weeks, Lena found herself spending more and more time with Ethan. They walked along the creek, talking about everything and nothing. She learned about his dreams of building his own workshop, and he listened patiently as she spoke about the plants she was studying. One evening, Ethan invited her to a town dance. Lena hesitated. She was still self-conscious about her appearance, even in her human form. "I don't know, Ethan," she said. "I'm not much of a dancer." "Nonsense," he replied, taking her hand. "It's just a bit of fun. Besides, I'd really like you to come." Lena couldn't resist his gentle persuasion. She agreed to go, but her anxiety gnawed at her. At the dance, Lena felt out of place. The other women were dressed in bright, colorful dresses, their faces beaming with confidence. She felt plain and awkward in her simple dress. Ethan, however, made her feel comfortable. He held her hand as they walked onto the dance floor and guided her through the steps. Lena found herself relaxing, laughing, and enjoying the music. Later, in the evening, they stepped outside for some fresh air. The moon was full, casting a silvery glow over the town. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the crickets chirp and the distant music from the dance. "Lena," Ethan said softly, turning to face her. "I've really enjoyed getting to know you." "I've enjoyed getting to know you too, Ethan," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. He reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You know," he said, "you're really beautiful." Lena froze. The word hung in the air, shimmering like a mirage. Beautiful? No one had ever called her that before. Not on Glaran, and not even in her human form. She stared at Ethan, her mind reeling. Was he serious? Was he just being kind? Or did he truly see something in her that she couldn't see in herself? "What?" she stammered, her voice trembling. Ethan smiled, his eyes full of warmth. "I mean it, Lena. You have a kind heart, a sharp mind, and a beautiful soul. And," he added, stepping closer, "I think you're beautiful on the outside too." Lena's heart pounded in her chest. She had come to Harmony Creek seeking answers, seeking validation. And now, here it was, in the form of a simple carpenter who saw something special in her. But then, fear crept in. What if he found out who she really was? What if he discovered that she was an alien, a creature from another world? Would he still think she was beautiful then? She knew she had to tell him the truth, but the words caught in her throat. She was afraid of losing him, of shattering the connection they had formed. "Ethan," she began, her voice shaking, "there's something I need to tell you." Before she could continue, a bright light flashed in the sky. A spacecraft, identical to her own, descended rapidly towards the town square. Panic surged through Lena. Her mission was compromised. They had come to retrieve her. Ethan stared at the descending craft, his eyes wide with shock. "What is that?" he whispered. Lena knew she couldn't hide the truth any longer. "Ethan," she said, her voice filled with despair, "I'm not who you think I am." The spacecraft landed in the town square, its engines humming. A ramp extended, and a figure emerged, tall and slender, with shimmering silver skin and large black eyes. It was Xylo's superior officer, Commander Zara. "Xylo," Zara called out, her voice echoing through the town. "Report to the ship immediately." Ethan turned to Lena, his face a mask of confusion and disbelief. "Xylo?" he whispered. "Who is Xylo?" Lena closed her eyes, bracing herself for the inevitable. She opened them and looked at Ethan, her heart breaking. "I am," she said, her voice barely audible. "I am Xylo." She then shed her human disguise, revealing her true form. Her gray skin, uneven eyes, and drooping antennae were now on full display. The townspeople gasped and recoiled in horror. Ethan stared at her, his expression unreadable. Xylo felt a wave of shame wash over her. She had deceived him, and now he knew the truth. "I'm sorry, Ethan," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I never meant to hurt you." She turned to leave, to follow Zara back to the ship, but then she heard a voice. "Xylo, wait!" She turned back to see Ethan standing there, his eyes filled with a mixture of shock and something else, something that looked like understanding. "Xylo," he said, stepping towards her. "It's still you, isn't it? You're still the same person I've come to care about." Xylo stared at him, her heart pounding. He wasn't repulsed. He wasn't afraid. He was still seeing her, the real her. "But I'm an alien," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm not even beautiful." Ethan smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile. "Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, Xylo," he said. "And in my eyes, you are beautiful." He stepped closer and took her hand. "Don't go," he said. Stay and show me your world, and let me show you mine." Xylo looked at Ethan and then at Zara, who was watching them with a mixture of disapproval and curiosity. She made her decision. "Zara," she said, turning to her commander, "I'm not returning to Glaren. I'm staying here with Ethan." Zara's eyes widened in surprise. "Xylo, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life," Xylo replied. Zara sighed. "Very well," she said. "But you know the consequences. You will be considered a traitor to our planet." "I understand," Xylo said, "but I'm willing to take that risk." Zara nodded, then turned and walked back to the ship. The ramp retracted, and the spacecraft lifted off, disappearing into the night sky. Xylo turned to Ethan, her heart filled with hope. She had found something special in Harmony Creek, something she never thought possible. She had found love, acceptance, and a place where she could finally be herself, and she had learned that beauty wasn't about symmetry or vibrant colors. It was about kindness, compassion, and seeing the good in others. And in Ethan's eyes, she was beautiful. Zilara hailed from the planet Xylos, where beauty was defined by shimmering scales, multifaceted eyes, and the ability to levitate objects with one's mind. She possessed none of these. Her scales were dull, her eyes were ordinary, and her telekinetic abilities were, well, let's just say she once accidentally upended a bowl of luminescent algae during a crucial examination. On Xylos, Xylara was, by societal standards, considered aesthetically challenged. Her parents, bless their shimmering hearts, always told her she had a unique charm, which in Xylosian roughly translated to, "At least she's good at math." This societal perception, coupled with a series of unfortunate romantic rejections involving giggling Xylosian males and their impressive levitation skills, led Xylara to believe she was, unequivocally, ugly. Driven by a desire to escape the suffocating beauty standards of Xylos, Xylara applied for the intergalactic exchange program. To her utter astonishment, she was accepted. Her destination? Earth, a planet known for its peculiar customs, strange gravity, and beings called humans. Xylara arrived on Earth disguised in a holographic projection that mimicked the average human female. Brown hair, unremarkable features, and clothing she'd meticulously researched to ensure she wouldn't stand out. She landed in a small town nestled in the Colorado mountains, a place she hoped would offer anonymity and a chance to observe these curious humans without drawing too much attention to herself. She found a small apartment above a bookstore owned by a kindly old woman named Martha. Martha, with her twinkling eyes and love for all things literary, welcomed Xylara with open arms. "Welcome to Harmony Creek, dear. I'm so glad to have a new tenant. Call me Martha. Everyone does." Xylara, using the name Zara, mumbled a thank you and retreated to her apartment, overwhelmed by the sheer normalcy of everything. Humans were ordinary. They walked, they talked, they laughed, they seemed blissfully unaware of the shimmering scales and telekinetic prowess that defined beauty on Xylos. She began working at a local coffee shop, The Daily Grind, run by a perpetually stressed-out man named Bob. Bob, despite his anxieties, was a good boss, and Zylara quickly learned the art of brewing the perfect cup of earth coffee. Her days were filled with the aroma of roasted beans, the whirring of the espresso machine, and the endless stream of human customers ordering their caffeine fixes. One of these customers was a young man named Ethan. Ethan was a local artist, known for his intricate landscape paintings that captured the breathtaking beauty of the Colorado mountains. He was a regular at the daily grind, always ordering a black coffee and spending hours sketching in his notebook. Zylara, or Zara as she was now known, found herself drawn to Ethan. He was quiet, thoughtful, and possessed an air of gentle kindness that she found strangely comforting. She observed him from behind the counter, admiring the way his brow furrowed in concentration as he sketched, the way his lips curved into a small smile when he was pleased with his work. One day, Ethan approached the counter as Zylara was wiping it down. "Excuse me," he said, his voice soft and hesitant. "I was wondering, would you mind if I sketched you sometime?" Zylara froze. She, sketch-worthy. On Xylos, no one would ever dream of capturing her image on a canvas. She stammered, "Me? But why?" Ethan blushed, a faint pink creeping up his neck. "I don't know," he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. I think you have a really interesting face. You have kind eyes and a certain, I don't know, beauty." The word hung in the air like a fragile ornament. Beauty. He had called her beautiful. Zylara, the alien woman who thought she was ugly, the one who had been ridiculed and rejected for her lack of shimmering scales and telekinetic abilities, was being called beautiful by a human. Her holographic projection flickered for a moment, betraying her alien origins. She quickly regained control, but the damage was done. Ethan had noticed. His eyes widened, a mixture of confusion and fascination swirling within them. He looked at her, truly looked at her, past the brown hair and unremarkable features, past the carefully constructed facade she had built to blend in. He saw something else, something alien, something beautiful. "What? What are you?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Zylara's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the moment of truth. She could lie, deny her true identity, and risk alienating the one person who had ever made her feel seen. Or she could tell him the truth, risk his fear and rejection, but perhaps, just perhaps, find a connection that transcended the boundaries of planets and species. Taking a deep breath, she deactivated the holographic projection. Her scales shimmered into view, her eyes widened and shifted in color, and her true Xylosian form was revealed. Ethan gasped, taking a step back. Fear flickered in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by curiosity. He stared at her, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Zylara braced herself for the inevitable rejection. She had known this would happen, that no human could possibly accept her for who she truly was. But then, something unexpected happened. Ethan reached out a hand, his fingers trembling slightly. "You're incredible," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "You're even more beautiful than I imagined." Zylara's multifaceted eyes widened in surprise. He wasn't disgusted. He wasn't afraid. He was fascinated. He saw beauty in her alien form, in the shimmering scales and the unusual eyes that had always been a source of shame for her. I don't understand," she stammered, her voice thick with emotion. "On my planet, I'm considered ugly." Ethan shook his head, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "Your planet has a very narrow definition of beauty," he said. "Here on Earth, we appreciate all kinds of beauty. And you, Zara, you are truly beautiful, inside and out." He paused, taking a step closer to her. Can you tell me about Xylos?" he asked, his eyes shining with genuine curiosity. Zylara's heart soared. She had found a place where she could be herself, where her unique charm was not only accepted but celebrated. She had found someone who saw past the superficial and appreciated the beauty that lay within. And as she began to tell Ethan about her home planet, about the shimmering scales and the telekinetic abilities, about the societal pressures and the longing for acceptance, she knew that she had finally found a place where she belonged. A place where she was not just Zara, the alien woman disguised as a human, but Zylara, the beautiful Xylossian, finally home. Zorpia was from a planet called Glorp, a world of swirling purple skies and towering crystal trees. On Glorp, everyone looked the same: smooth, gray skin, large black eyes, and slender bodies. Beauty on Glorp was about how well you followed the norm. Zorpia, however, had a small bump on her nose, a slightly crooked antenna, and her skin was a shade darker than the rest. She was, by Glorpian standards, ugly. Growing up, Zorpia always felt like an outsider. Other Glorpian children would giggle and point at her when she walked by. Even her own family seemed a little embarrassed by her. She tried to hide her imperfections, smoothing down her antenna and caking mud on her skin to lighten its tone. But nothing worked. She was always the ugly duckling. One day, Zorpia heard whispers about a planet called Earth. Glorpian scientists had been studying Earth for years, fascinated by its diverse landscapes and strange creatures. But what intrigued Zorpia most were the humans. They came in all shapes and sizes, with different colors of skin, hair, and eyes. It was said that on Earth, beauty was not about conformity, but about individuality. Zorpia hatched a plan. She would stow away on a Glorpian cargo ship heading to Earth. She knew it was a risky move, but she couldn't bear another day on Glorp, feeling like an outcast. The journey was long and uncomfortable. Zorpia hid in a dark, cramped compartment, surviving on scraps of food and water. But the thought of Earth kept her going. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the ship landed. Zorpia waited until nightfall to sneak off the ship. She found herself in a bustling city, filled with bright lights and strange sounds. Humans rushed past her, their faces buried in glowing rectangles. Zorpia felt a thrill of excitement, but also a pang of fear. She was so different from these humans. Would they accept her? Or would they see her as a hideous alien? She wandered through the city, trying to blend in. She observed the humans, studying their clothes, their mannerisms, their expressions. She noticed that they did indeed come in all shapes and sizes, just as she had heard. But she also noticed that they seemed to have their own standards of beauty. Some humans were considered more attractive than others. Zorpia saw groups of young women with long, flowing hair and perfect white teeth posing for pictures. She saw muscular men with sculpted abs flexing their biceps. She couldn't help but compare herself to them. Her gray skin, her crooked antenna, her bumpy nose. She felt uglier than ever. She found a secluded alleyway and huddled in the shadows, feeling lost and alone. Maybe she had made a mistake coming to Earth. Maybe she was destined to be an outcast no matter where she went. As she sat there, a young man stumbled into the alleyway. He was tall and lanky, with messy brown hair and kind eyes. He seemed surprised to see her. "Oh, sorry," he said. "I didn't realize anyone was here." Zorpia didn't say anything. She just stared at him, her heart pounding in her chest. The young man hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "You know," he said, "you're really beautiful." Zorpia froze. Beautiful? No one had ever called her that before. Not on Glorp, not anywhere. She was the ugly one, the outcast. How could this human possibly think she was beautiful? I don't understand, she stammered. The young man shrugged. "I just mean you have a very unique look. Your skin is so smooth and your eyes are so big and expressive. And I like your antenna. It's kind of cute." Zorpia was speechless. She had always seen her differences as flaws, as things to be ashamed of. but this human saw them as beautiful. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're welcome," the young man said. "My name is Alex. What's yours?" "Zorpia," she replied. "That's a beautiful name," Alex said. "So, Zorpia, what brings you to this alleyway?" Zorpia hesitated. Should she tell him the truth? Could she trust him? She decided to take a chance. "I'm not from Earth," she said. "I'm from a planet called Glorp." Alex's eyes widened, but he didn't seem scared or disbelieving. "Wow," he said. "That's amazing. I've always been fascinated by aliens." Zorpia told him her story, about growing up on Glorp, about feeling like an outcast, about her journey to Earth. Alex listened patiently, his eyes full of empathy. "I can't imagine what that must have been like," he said when she was finished. "But I want you to know that you're not an outcast here. Earth is a big place with room for everyone, and I think you're going to fit in just fine." Zorpia smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Maybe Earth wasn't so bad after all. Maybe she could find a place here, a place where she could be accepted for who she was. Alex offered to take her to his apartment. He lived with a group of friends who were all artists and musicians. They were open-minded and accepting, and they were thrilled to meet an actual alien. Zorpia spent the next few weeks exploring Earth with Alex and his friends. She learned about human culture, about art and music, about love and friendship. She discovered that beauty wasn't just about physical appearance. It was about kindness, compassion, and inner strength. She started to see herself in a new light. Her differences weren't flaws. They were unique qualities that made her special. She stopped trying to hide her antenna and her bumpy nose. She embraced her Glorpian heritage. One day, Alex took Zorpia to a park. They sat on a bench, watching the children play. "Zorpia," Alex said, "I have something to ask you." He took her hand and looked into her eyes. "I know we haven't known each other for very long, but I feel like I've known you my whole life. I'm in love with you." Zorpia's heart skipped a beat. She had never felt this way about anyone before. "I love you too, Alex," she said. They kissed, and the world seemed to fade away. In that moment, Zorpia knew that she had finally found her place. She was no longer the ugly duckling. She was a beautiful, unique, and loved alien woman on a strange and wonderful planet called Earth. In a small town named Maplewood, life was normal for most people. The sun rose each day, and children played in the parks while adults went to work. But one day, everything changed when a bright light flashed across the sky. It came from a spaceship that landed silently in the nearby woods. Inside the spaceship was an alien woman named Lyra. She had big, shimmering eyes and skin that glowed softly like the moon. However, Lyra did not see herself as beautiful. She looked in a mirror made from spaceship metal and thought her appearance was strange and ugly. Her long green hair reminded her of seaweed, and her tall, slender body felt awkward. She wished she could look like the humans she had watched from her spaceship. Lyra decided to leave her ship and explore the town. She was curious about humans and their lives. As she walked into Maplewood, the townspeople stopped and stared. They had never seen anyone like her before. Some pointed and others whispered to each other. Lyra felt shy and wished she could turn back to her ship. But her curiosity pushed her forward. At first, everything was overwhelming. The colors of the flowers were bright, and the sounds of laughter filled the air. But the more she walked, the more she realized how different she was. When she smiled, people flinched a bit, thinking her teeth were too sharp or her smile too wide. Lyra felt her heart sink. She wanted to blend in, but it seemed impossible. While walking near a playground, Lyra saw a group of children playing. They were running, laughing, and swinging. One little girl, with curly brown hair and bright blue eyes, noticed her. The girl hesitated at first, but then ran over. "Are you a fairy?" she asked with excitement. Lyra shook her head and said, "No, I am just different." The girl frowned, confused. "But you look magical," she exclaimed. Before Lyra could respond, a voice called out, "Hey, come back here!" A boy named Ethan, the girl's older brother, ran towards them. He stopped when he saw Lyra and blinked in surprise. "Wow, who are you?" he asked, amazed by her appearance. "I'm Lyra," she said softly, unsure if they would laugh at her. But then Ethan smiled. "You're beautiful, like a tree from a fairy tale." At that moment, everything in Lyra froze. The word beautiful echoed in her mind. No one had ever called her beautiful before. She felt warmth spread in her chest, and a smile crept onto her face, but she quickly covered her mouth in surprise. Ethan noticed her reaction and said, "You really are. Believe me." He stepped closer, intrigued by her. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see the human world," Lyra explained. "I thought it might be fun." She looked nervous, but Ethan nodded, excited. "You should come play with us." Lyra hesitated. She wanted to join them, but fear gripped her heart. "What if you don't like me?" she asked quietly. The little girl, whose name was Mia, took Lyra's hand and said, "We will like you. You're already my favorite fairy." With a deep breath, Lyra decided to join them. As they played, she slowly let go of her worries. They ran from swings to slides, and laughter filled the air. Lyra even tried to swing, although she was much taller than the frame of the swing set. Ethan helped her, and together they laughed, creating a bond that seemed to break down the walls she had built around herself. Later, while resting under a big oak tree, Mia asked, "Lyra, where do you come from?" "From far away," Lyra replied. "A place where everything is very different from here." "Do you have other friends there?" Ethan questioned. Lyra felt a slight sadness. "Not many. I often feel alone, just like when I first arrived. All you need is a friend," Mia said with a big smile. "You have us now." Just then, a few adults walked by. They noticed the children playing with Lyra and paused, some looking unsure. They whispered among themselves, worried about a stranger in their town. "What is that?" "One," man said, squinting. Ethan stood up, ready to defend his new friend. "She's Lyra, and she's beautiful. Don't be scared." The adults looked skeptical, but the children continued to laugh and play. As the day turned to evening, Lyra felt something she had never experienced before. The warmth of friendship filled her heart. She realized that beauty wasn't just about how someone looked. It was in the joy of playing, sharing stories, and making connections. Before going back to her ship, she turned to Ethan and Mia. "Thank you for making me feel beautiful," she said. "I will carry this day in my heart forever." Ethan smiled brightly. "You can come back any time. We'll keep your secret and play more games." As Lyra walked back to her spaceship, she felt different. The bright lights of the town felt like a warm hug. She looked into the mirror one last time. She saw the same tall alien woman with green hair, but this time she saw her beauty through the eyes of her new friends. When she finally flew back into the sky, Lyra looked down at Maplewood and smiled. She understood that real beauty comes from kindness, laughter, and friendship. She wouldn't forget the day a human called her beautiful, and she promised herself that she would never feel ugly again.